Hey, good day, everyone. Can you all hear me? Oh, yeah. I always get made fun of because I'm supposed to be the tech wizard around here, and I always have problems with my microphone. Too many buttons to press. Yeah, it's great to be here with all of you. Yeah, spending a couple hours, something like that, just sharing some stories. And, Tom talked a lot about the keeper, whether it's an event or a happening or, things. Think about this gathering. There is a keeper to this too. This is the power of storytelling, remembering the past in the present, and hopefully so it's of benefit for the future generations, right? So take just a second to try to tap into the keeper of today and think about what you need to say and what you need to listen to. Um, it's something I've been doing since this class idea came up, and I got to thank a few people that did reach out, um, and were so excited about some of the story sharing that went on at the memorial, and Jorge in particular. Is he here? Oh, he's not here, so I can talk about him. Awesome. So Jorge totally. Wait. Oh, darn it, he is here. No, but seriously, he was all fired up about the power of the sharing of the stories, and there was so many good stories that we didn't get to there, not only from staff but from students too. Tom's brother Jim just put something in the chat room. If you have stories about terrible, awful diseases from the wilderness, let him know. I don't think they actually have to be terrible or awful, but what's he got there? Yeah. Yeah, let's just take just a moment and take a big breath in and kind of settle into this and give a little bit of gratitude for all the blessings that we do have in our lives and ask for strength and encouragement to keep going forward and be good human beings, right? So thanks to all those that came before, and thanks for all those that are here now. And we look forward to carrying this into the future. With that being said, I think Nancy had some things she wanted to say sort of along those lines.
Good morning, all. It's wonderful to be here. I've been thinking about it last night and this morning, and thinking about what this means for the future, the historical significance of meeting and talking about our stories. They really tell the history of the Tracker School. And for years, I wanted to put something together with people's stories. And now I see it manifesting in the work that Dave's doing on this to make this happen. An archive of all of us. Tom taught us so much. The depth of his teachings become more manifest every day. And the more we think about it, I think the more we realize how much he did teach us. In the really relatively short time he was on this planet, he had his feet in both worlds. Heavy-footed in the spiritual world. That's a given, for sure. This is such a blessing that we have this. I can't even put words to it. It's something each of us will have to manifest in our thoughts. I had the honor, the blessing, the good fortune to be with him early on and begin working for Tracker in 1993. I had the opportunity to observe Tom, and he absolutely could do all the things that he taught. He did it in a very quiet way, in a very coyote way, disappearing into a tree line. I was driving him someplace and he said, stop. And I let him out, was on the island. I let him out and I sat for a minute and he came around the corner and got in the car again from the opposite direction that he went in. I asked him if he was shape shifting. He said, no, it was something else. Never told me. So each of these instances I had a chance to watch him was a learning. And I can't, some of the stuff he taught seems so beyond anything we're capable of doing, but damn it, I saw him do it. And he taught this to us. We're his children that carry this forward, the lineage from grandfather to Tom to us. It's a powerful moment. And I just appreciate everyone being here. And I think these meetings will grow. Maybe we'll be able to set something up where you can write something and that will be archived. I don't know. It's just beginning. And thank you, David, for all the work you've put into this. This is really powerful. Elizabeth, do you have something to add as an elder?
Sure,
Shuna.
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Nancy. So again, welcome to all of you here. As Nancy said, we're Tom's children, you know. Um, Grandfather, actually, that term means teacher. So in a sense, we could also call Tom our teacher. But it is so important. He has given us these teachings and put them in our hearts, in our minds, in our spirits. So the more we work with these teachings that he gave us, the more we put in dirt time, the more and more will be revealed. But I'm going to tell you a little something that happened for me back in 1993 at the standard class, or 92, something like that. Anyway, Tom was teaching almost all the classes. The evening workshops would go to like Bear or Karen Sherwood or someone like that. But he demonstrated one stocking step, and it was just unbelievable. I knew in my mind that his foot had been on the floor, and now it was all the way up, waist high, right? I mean, not his knee was waist high, whatever. There was no discernible movement. My mind could not comprehend that he had moved, other than it knew that it had seen his foot on the ground and now it was high in the air. That's something that I think of often, and I feel so blessed because Tom didn't often demonstrate once he had other people teaching more of the standard and such. He didn't often demonstrate things. Another cherished memory was back in March of 1993 at my Philosophy 4, which became Earth Spirits Medicine Society eventually. Tom had hurt his back, and so we're in the Taj, which was then called the Thunderdome, and he's on a stool, and he can't twist. He had to turn his whole upper body to look at the students. But then there was a sound of an ATV coming down the trail into the primitive camp. It was unbelievable. This man who could barely move stood up in a very fluid motion, went to the door of the Thunderdome, grabbed a staff that was right by the door, and was out of that Thunderdome, and just like a shot, moving like an otter. It was so freaking amazing to see him tap into that animal within or whatever and make sure that those ATV people left. Now it happened that Bear and Malcolm were also standing outside, and they were just standing there with their arms crossed and just looking at them, glaring at the ATV people. So they were already started to turn around by the time Tom got out there. But just amazing to see. And so many times Tom didn't show us those things because he wanted us to learn them ourselves. He wanted us to be able to do those things ourselves. And he taught us the tools, the recipes, as he put it, to be able to do it. So, man, he may not physically be here, but all his teachings, as we delve deeper and deeper into them, and as we share our stories, and as we come together, more and more will be revealed. And the power now rests in our hands. Are we going to come together? Are we going to do the dirt time? Are we going to share our stories and, be family, be the tracker family that he and grandfather would talk about? So we have all been so blessed to learn from him and to continue to learn from him until who knows when, as long as we work with it. Thank you. Randy, did you want to speak as an elder?
Well, I wanted to share two brief stories, but also, you know, um, in that theme of of Tom, you can't really describe him, but when grandfather said, what were Christ's last words? And answers, heal the sick, raise the dead, and cast out demons. And how many schools could you ever go to? There's no other school you could go to. Well, maybe there, I don't know. But anyway, uh, many of us learn to do those things and use them to help others. Uh, we learn to do that and use it. And I'm back there now. We now have a vision. We have grandfather's vision through Tom. We have Tom's vision because he was our teacher. He still is our teacher. God damn it. Uh, and it's neat. Nancy was talking about how Tom could disappear and appear. In my scout class, Cody was about 18 months old, and he was with Tom at the party at the crossroads, and the teams are crawling along the ridge lines, to observe, find observation points, and bring back the information, what's going on. And I'm the sweep, and I'm being real, I'm being real careful, looking behind and stuff. And there's about a 20-second gap between me checking the six and going forward. And all of a sudden behind me, I hear, hey, Cody, what do we got here? And Tom's like 20 feet behind me with Cody, who's he's a toddler. Tom's got his hand way down, holding his hand, and they're walking just real slow together. And how he got up that ridge line there, I don't know. He, he got my dead spot. What is, and he got me, and we both knew it. Uh, the other story I want to tell is about how caring and loving and how much Tom cared about all of us. Uh, this was also in the first Philosophy 4 class, and we're learning how to move energy. And I'd been on a path for over 20 years at this point, and very frustrated that I didn't see anything in spirit. I didn't realize the cues I was getting, and I was really frustrated. And Phil, 4, we were learning how to move energy, and I was sucking at it. I couldn't move the feathers. I couldn't move the flame. I got to this existential point in my life in that class where all of a sudden I just lost it. I just started crying. This is in the evening. Tom is in the kitchen, and somehow I end up in the kitchen, and I'm crying, and kind of I'm not, myself. And Tom goes, then he doesn't say anything. He just walks up and embraces me and held me, and I was blubbering at this point. Uh, he never said anything, but I that moment passed, I went through it, that, and I'm sure that there was help there, uh, and got back on track. Maybe you have those existential crises in life. I imagine we all have. Um, it's great to get onto the other side of it and find a way to start afresh. And Tom gave that to me in that moment. Um, Never said a thing. And that's all I got. I got lot more, but that's all we're doing here, right?
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thinking about some of the history around Tracker School, and uh, I remember back, this was around 2003, I think. And once in a while, I would house sit for Tom, and once in a great while, sort of, I don't know if babysit is the right word for River and Cody, but I tell you what, they were both little terrors. Good Lord. Wild kids. And I mentioned that because just lately, River recorded a video about some future classes coming up, and it's so cool to see how he's grown, how all of his kids have grown and developed into really good human beings, right? I'll that link to watch that video that River put out maybe within the last week. I just put it in the chat room so you can check that out at some point. It's pretty neat to hear that. Actually, I don't think he's on right now, so we can totally make fun of River if anybody feels so. Actually, Jorge, you got any good River stories?
Uh, yeah, they both were little terrorists. They love beating up on Matt. Um, they attack Matt all the time. It was funny, but I just played mind games with them, and so the end result of that was like they will beat each other up. I will make them fight against each other. It was fascinating for me. Just how, what can I say to this kid so they just start punching each other instead of punching me? But Matt was always fighting with them. It was funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't have many stories. I didn't see him growing up much because when I started working there, pretty soon we moved to Florida, and they were already there. So I didn't get to see much of them, except in camp once in a while. Um, so I don't know. Some stories better not be said, not mention anything. But I imagine other people, probably Nancy, other people have more stories about them.
Right on. Thanks, Debbie. Totally spot on about his humor. I mean, most of you know the kind of pranks he would pull on the people that worked with him. It's like the closer you got to Tom, the more likely it was that something god awful was going to happen to you. I remember some of you had seen this. It was uh, probably 2013, 2012, something like that. He does like a 10-minute video where he talks about wanting to honor me for my contributions to the tracker school and all the hard work, and show everybody my shelter, right? Because it was such an impressive shelter. And then the camera pans out and it's pointing at the porta bobs. And Tom is trying his hardest to keep a straight face. And he's like, yeah, this is Dave's shelter, but he doesn't live up here. And he opens up the door and he's like, he lives in the basement where nobody can see him. It's like a scout shelter. And at the very end, he cracks a smile because he can't hold it in anymore. But yeah, that was pretty good. Jim, what do you got about what was it like with Tom when he was a kid?
You can hear me now? Okay, that's great. Anyhow, I am going to tell you the story of Tom Brown before the tracker. Growing up, I was, they called me Little Jimmy when I'm 3 years younger than Tom. And it was funny, little Jimmy is now 6'4", and definitely not little, but it was so cool growing up with Tom. He taught me about nature before almost anything. I'm trying to think, it was 1959, and that goes back before the tracker school a little bit. Anyhow, in Beechwood, growing up, we had this little, between us and the Toms River, there's a little path, a little roadway right going from our house down to the beach in Beechwood on the Toms River. And there was a woods between us and there. And what was really cool, there was a pond there, and Tom was showing me all about nature. At that time, I was 6 years old, he was 9 years old. And it was so cool, him showing me all about, and I think I posted on the tracker site not long ago about how he showed me a leaf. And he says, you know what? This, God hits this with sunlight, and the leaf keeps the tree alive. It gives food for the tree. And he says, you know what the leaf also does? It gives us something to breathe. I'm 6 years old. He's 9 years old. He's telling me about oxygen. I mean, it was amazing. He's the best teacher ever. I'm a PhD. I'm a professor. But let me tell you, he is such a better teacher than I ever will be. It was really cool, him showing me that. But anyhow, I want to tell you about the basement in Beechwood. It was a coal room. And what Tom did is he started to drag his animals back to that coal room in Beechwood. My father pulled it out, had a little table in there and everything else for us. Tom would cut up all these animals he would bring back, especially, and one of the saddest things in my life at the time, he took me out deer smacking. And as far as, he taught me what you were talking about. You had to be still and not move in nature. And sure enough, the creatures would come out, you'd see them and all the rest. Well, he would stalk up on it slowly. And so he would do this a number of times to me. So it was so much fun going out into the back of Beechwood, into the Pine Barrens to go deer smacking with Tommy. He'd come up in the backside, smack it there. It was so cool. And he taught me, Jim, you stand behind this tree. Do not move, because I wasn't good at that. So anyhow, he would go up, smack the deer and all that. Well, one day he comes out and he has a bone knife that he made, and he stabs the deer in the chest. I thought I was going to die. Well, the deer died. Well, anyhow, that's where Tom would drag the thing home, do the tanning of the hides, brain tanning, and all the rest. He did that in the basement there. But the other cool thing, my dad actually took a job at the hospital both Tom and I were born in. Now, if you see that Tom was born in Toms River, guess what? We were both born in Lakewood, the Paul Kimball Hospital. Well, my dad got a job in the Paul Kimball Hospital when we were kids there playing in the basement, and they knew that Tom was cutting up all sorts of animals and stuff like that. They were getting new microscopes. And what was really cool, the pathologist was friends with my dad, and he says, you know what? I'm going to give you our old microscope. Take it home to your sons, Tommy and Jimmy. He says, they'll love it. And sure enough, guess what? Tom taught me everything about the use of a microscope. It was incredible. Guess what I am? I'm a microbiologist because of what Tom taught me when I was little. When I was telling you right across the beach, Beechwood there, he took me down into the woods. There was a puddle there, and he showed me this is where the mosquitoes grow up. And we took the water out of there, put it under the microscope. He showed me there was the mosquito larvae. He showed me that when I was a little kid. So anyhow, because of Tom was the greatest teacher ever. Let me tell you, it was so cool. Now, I was there for the end of his life also. The last 3.5 weeks of his life, I was there. And it was fantastic because we started talking about his book, Diseases from the Wilderness, Tom Brown Jr. and Dr. Jim Brown. So anyhow, I put this up for you. Can you guys see this, or is it all backwards? Anyhow.
Looks good.
I've got the email on it, drjameswbrown@gmail.com. If you have any stories you would like to share about when you're out in the woods and any kind of diseases, mosquitoes, ticks, what have you. I'm hoping to have the whole thing written by the end of the summer. I want it to be the anniversary of his death that I have the book written. And then, it takes a month or two to get it all published and everything. But I would love to give you, if you share something with me, I'd love to give you an acknowledgement in that book. And it would be kind of cool to include those stories, especially from anywhere you went in the United States. I'm just covering the United States, so you're out of luck if you tell me about Europe. Okay. But anyhow, I would love to contribute all the. Oh, the other thing is, I am the chair of the Global Distance Learning Association. All across the United States, all across the world. If I can help any of you, if you're doing anything online and would like my help, I have 23,000 connections on LinkedIn. I'm very willing to help you guys with it. You have my email address. Don't be afraid to contact me. It'd be really fun. And I just want to mention something about Tom Brown, the father, Tom's father, my father, because you mentioned it today. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. I think it was Randy mentioned it, how he was crying. Our father sat Tom and I down and he said, Tom, I was in World War II. I was there when a whole bunch of people, big, powerful men, they were getting shot and killed. And so many of them cried. Don't ever be afraid to cry. And the other thing it taught us is touch. Don't be afraid to hug. And at the memorial service, if you remember, we were hugging everybody. It was beautiful. And I want to thank you. You guys, all of you are a special blessing. And I really want to do everything I can in the rest of my life. I'm 72 years old. So who knows how long that's going to go. But I want to help everybody. You are beautiful people. You are a true blessing. God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. That's pretty awesome. Victor, what are you doing? Good to see you here today.
Thanks a lot. It's great to be here. So many names I recognize, haven't seen in a long time. Nancy, I love you. Thank you for just staying a friend. My name, yeah, Victor Wooten. I went to the tracker school from 91 to 2001. And I'll just say it this way. I had never spent the night outdoors before I went. I literally went to a nearby park and about 4 in the morning, and I sat on a bench the night before I flew to New Jersey. I sat on a bench until the sun came up, just so if somebody ever asked, have you ever, camped or spent a night outside, I could say, well, yeah, and not be lying. But that's all I did was I sat on a bench, and I thought that I would get there and not know anything. I thought I was going to be surrounded by hunters and nature, I got there and realized, Tom made us all realize none of us knew anything. So I felt that I was okay. But the first class, Tom started talking, and I've been playing music my whole life. And I told myself that this guy's teaching music. He doesn't call it that. He has different names for all of it, but he's teaching music. And once I made that shift and I looked at everything through a musical eye, even the little tracks he would draw on the board, I put little stems on them and turned them into music notes, and all of a sudden I could track. And so what I realized the first day was that nature was a connection to everything, everything. And so now that I get to teach music a lot, I teach it a lot by including nature. Nature is the missing ingredient, I believe. Whenever you see a young kid who's good at something, you say, wow, that kid is a natural. Well, what does that mean? That means, wow, that kid is like nature. It doesn't even have to try. I don't think a beaver's like studying how to chew down a tree and build a dam, or it just naturally do it. And I realized, wow, this is the missing ingredient. So this is not an advertisement, but just to show how Tom affected me, In 2000, I started running a music/nature camp. I make sure it's in the title, and I bring some of Tom's, ex-teachers to come in, and we teach music, but we also get them outside, and we do nature, and it is profound the effect that it has on people, bringing in this nature element to help them get whatever it is they do. And we focus on music, but people are really into anything, but we use nature to bring it together, and it's so, so powerful. So anyway, I'll throw that in there. A couple of years ago, I got to visit the tracker school one more time with I don't know, other people who had been to tracker school longer than I had. One of the guys was in Tom's first uh, Boy Scout troop when Tom was a Boy Scout leader. And I'm sorry I forget the guy's name, but Jon Young was there, and Stansfield. I forget names. I'm so sorry, but it was fun to be back there, not to be a student and not to be an instructor, just like 3 days of just being there and getting to observe. And Tom, I realized also back in the 90s, is a great improviser. And I always said if Tom was a jazz musician, he would be one of the best because he can just improvise. So about the second day, there's four of us that are guests there. Tom starts introducing us. And he introduces Jon Young and blah, blah, blah. And he gets to me and he says, Victor Wooten is a musician, in his powerful voice. And then he says, Wooten and I are working on a camp. And I forget the name, but it's going to be called the music of nature and the nature of music. And he described this whole camp. And it was amazing. And I'm sitting there wide-eyed, like, wow, really? We're doing this? And then once he finishes and he gets off the stage and walks back over somewhere, people are rushing to me. Tell me about this camp. When is it happening? And I'm saying, you tell me. This is the first I've heard about it. If it happens, you tell me. I want to sign up too. But he just improvised that whole thing in the spur moment. And I realized again, this is what life is. You can plan as much as you want. But if you're not a good improviser, we're going to fail. And again, it was just another musical moment for me at the tracker school. I still have all the tracker stuff I ever had. I have a tracker knife right here. I forget the maker. If I heard the knife builder back in the 90s guy, if I heard his name, I would remember it. It's got a little side, small tracker knife attached to it. I've got the cowboy hats. I've got the sweatshirts, sweatpants. I've just been a tracker fanatic. And I will say this too, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody when I say it. I was one of three black people that I saw over the 10 years that I went. And Tom and I had actually talked about doing something to bring more people of color, of any color, to that school. And I'm kind of sad that we never pulled it together, but I still see that deficiency in this. And so I'm doing my part because this skill is for everybody, and I'm just glad that I got a chance to be a part of the school and get to learn from him, and it's changed my life. I'm sure it's changed all of ours. And I'm lucky that I still get to share Tom's knowledges, even at a music camp. And I appreciate all of you, a lot of friends out there that helped me along the way, especially you, Dave, also. And Dave, we're going to talk privately. I've got something I know you're going to want from early tracker days. Anyway, thanks for letting me chime in. I appreciate all of you for keeping the spirit of Tom and his nature and his teachings alive. And I hope I get to see you all somewhere in the near future.
Right on. Victor, hearing you talk about Tom as a jazz musician, there's not one name that immediately comes to mind. It's two. If Tom were a jazz musician, I'm thinking Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk.
Totally. Great, because both of those guys did it their own way. They knew the rules, but didn't feel like they had to follow them. So I agree with that. And Tom was a jazz musician, but just in a totally different way.
Yeah. If any of you are jazz heads out there, and you, I mean, if you're a jazz head, you of course know those names, but check them out. That's some really good music there. Uh, and yeah, back in like I think it was 2010, 20. Yeah, it was probably around 2010. I got to go down and do some filming at Victor's Nature Camp, and Catlin put the links in the chat room there. Uh, Way cool place. I mean, that combination of nature, music, tracking is awesome, and there's usually really good food, I think, too. um, let's see. It's a little after 11. Rana and Vicky, I see. Don't put your hands down yet, but I think we're gonna take a like maybe a 5-10 minute break. Um, Go to the bathroom, stretch out a little bit, and get ready for round two of some stories. So let's do 10 minutes because I've got a really big bladder. It's going to take me some time. See you in 10. Welcome back, everyone. To get started in this next round here, I did, because I know he's got to leave fairly soon, but I did want to see if Jon had a story to share.
Hello, Jim Brown. Thank you, Dave.
Hold on, let me turn off my spotlight. There you go.
All right. Well, I just wanted to go after Victor while it was still fresh in my mind. I know I'm saying hi to Jim because he remembers Joe Forlenza. That's who you're talking about, Vic. That was Scout class. There's so many stories I want to tell, and I'm trying to keep it brief here for y'all. Loved all your stories. Thanks, everybody. And I want to give a shout out to Chris Harley because he came out here to visit me and Sarah back in late 2021. And he was sitting on our patio with us, and he's just saying, "Hey, Jon, I really feel like 2022 is going to be Tom's last Scout class. I don't know why, but I really feel like it might be the last one. Can you come?" And I'm like, "Oh man, let me check, let me see what I can do, and we started talking about it, and Sarah's like, "Well, I want to do Scout class." And Chris said to me, "Get everybody together that you can think of and have them come." you know. So I reached out to Dan Stanchfield, and he's like, "Yeah, you're going? I'll be there," and then I reached out to Victor and Joe Forlenza, who Joe joined. I don't know, Jim, if you remember when, but I think Joe joined up with our little scout troop back in the 72, 73 time or whatever. So I've known Joe most of my life. We still talk every Wednesday. And yeah, so it was just a really special week. There was a number of us that just came to be there and support. And that was just really special. It was great for Tom to see Joe again after all these years as well. And Tom said to me, "Hey, Jon, I want you to keep mentoring Joe and tracking. Keep him going, okay?" Joe's a financial manager, wealth manager in San Diego. And I'm like, "Let me see what I can do, Tom." So I have been, every week, every Wednesday, I just kind of poke him a little bit and ask him to tell me some stories about his experiences tracking or, working with the plants or whatever. And to Joe's credit, he's going on a journey, which is really sweet. And yeah, well, gosh, I've known Jim Brown and Tom since 1971, and I loved your dad, Jim. He was such a wonderful mentor to me as well. Always fixing my bike. I couldn't understand his Scottish verb, but took me a while. Thankfully, you would often translate for me because he'd be speaking to me in English. I wouldn't understand a word he was saying. But he was so good. Taught me how to work on my bicycle and helped me learn how to work on engines. So we were always taking Tom's engines apart and putting them back together so that the Jeep could get down to the Pines. We have a lot of fond memories from the neighborhood, and the basement in the house in Homedale, Jim, where Tom took apart animals and taught me to be a taxidermist, believe it or not. It was really something. I was so excited to learn about all the things that this man knew. And I would say, what year was it? Somewhere, Tom was always kind of stretching my edges. I think you all know what I mean when I say that. And I was a punky little kid who lived up the street from him, and he'd call me virtually every night and just ask me what I did today, and pull on my stories, and then ask me questions I couldn't answer, and then send me out the next day to find the answer myself. So he definitely kind of taught me that whole way, but I had really no idea who this man was until he wrote that book in 1978, The Tracker, because he never let on. I mean, I just thought he was this guy up the street who didn't know anything and kept asking this young kid to figure stuff out for him. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, that sounds crazy, but that is really how he was. He was so clever. I wonder, Jim, if you have anything to chime in there, while you got your, I see your smile. I want to hear a reflection from you on that. I'm watching for your mic to pop open there, Dr. James Brown. There you are.
Hey, I just got it open. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Yes.
Jon, you were fantastic, I'll tell you. And it's wonderful. You're really continuing his tradition. This is
doing my best.
And you're on the other coast. This is fantastic.
Yeah, well, it's really nice to see you, Jim. I love you lots.
Great to see you. How's your sister?
Oh, she's good. Yeah, she's
okay. Give her my love.
I will certainly do that.
Did you see what I put up?
Oh, beautiful.
That was my dad.
Wow, I never saw him as a young man. That's gorgeous. Thank you.
Yeah, World War II.
Right on. Yeah, you remember Joe Ferlenza?
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when that was. Probably 73 or so when we first started to get together with him.
Yeah. If
Anyway,
ever a chance of getting the group together, even if it's online, let's do that. That'd be fun.
Right. I'm there, totally there. Thank you, Jim.
Oh, Steve Klein just we got together just a few weeks ago. You remember him?
I sure do. I want to get in touch with him, so please put me in touch.
I'll get you his email and stuff. Okay, I'll stop.
All right, thanks, Jim.
It's great seeing you. God bless you.
Yeah, bless you too. All right, so Tom, he stretched my edges. So like I was a super nerd about biology and science in high school, and I loved it. Like I wanted to be a wildlife biologist when I grew up, et cetera, but I didn't believe in spiritual things at all. Okay. And in around 1975, I started to have a whole series of interesting coincidences. And I'd tell Tom about him, and he'd be like, "What do you think of that, Jon?" I'm like, "That's a really weird coincidence." He says, "Coincidence, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so. What else would it be?" He said, "Well, when the 99th coincidence turns 100, will you still call it a coincidence?" And he said, "Do me a favor, get a journal and start journaling all these so-called coincidences and number them in order. And when you get to 100, come find me." Well, it took a few years for that to happen. And it was when he opened the Tracker School, 78. I was going to Rutgers University, and it wasn't far from the first farm in Asbury. And, he reached out to me and called me and said, "Hey, any chance you could come up and help me do some carpentry? I got to tear up some rotten floorboards and make the barn safe for the students that are coming." And I'm like, "Students?" He's like, "Yeah, I opened a school." I'm like, "You opened a school?" He's like, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "Holy crap, dude. All right, I'm coming up." He says, "If you got roommates or something, bring them up, and we'll have fun." And of course I knew that we would, because Tom was a blast to hang out with. And I brought two of my college, I brought my roommate and the guy that lived next door, and we all went up there and we just swung hammers and pulled nails and, cut up boards and built a wall so students wouldn't fall down into the cow feeding area. And when the first class came there, he asked me if I would teach. And I'm like, "I don't know if I could teach." I looked like I was 12 years old at the time. I was 18, but I looked like a little kid. But he insisted that I teach. And I'm like, "Tom, these people paid to see you. They don't want to see some skinny little 14-year-old looking punk standing up in front of the room. I don't know anything." He says, "What do you mean? You know a lot more than you think you know." And I'm like, I don't know, Tom, I don't know what you're talking about. And he says, you got stage fright? And I said, yeah, of course I have stage fright. I'm terrified by these people, Tom. They're like twice my age. They've got Alaska license plates and Colorado license plates. I'm seeing more license plates in this dirt parking lot than I've ever seen in my life. I'm intimidated. These people are like high level people. You know, they're like trackers and trappers and hunters. And who the hell am I? You know, and I literally I couldn't grow a mustache in those days. I still can't really, but I try. And I think that you guys nicknamed me Mexican hairless. Or no, that was Hank, right? But anyway, uh, he said, I said, what do you want me to teach? I said, look, I'll cook, I'll wash dishes, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I don't want to get in front of these people. He said, well, you got stage fright? And I said, yeah. He said, well, don't you know what to do for stage fright? Because my dad was a public speaker. I said, yeah, my dad told me. He said, what'd your dad tell you? Just picture everybody in their underwear. And Tom cracks up and he's like, well, you know, that'll work too. He says, but no, let me give you a little secret here, John. He says, when you get up in front of that room, if there's 100 people in that barn, including you and me, and there's 98 of them, there's 100 people in that room. I'm like, okay. He said, there's also 101st in that room. And that's the combination of all of the people in that room, including you and me, all as a spirit that is like a bubble over everyone. And he says that bubble's in touch with grandfather, it's in touch with the lineage, it's in touch with the earth, it's in touch with the future generations. He said, you speak to that. You just tune into that. And I'm like, how do I do that? He's like, you just do it, John. You just do it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Well, what am I going to teach about? He says, you remember that story you told me recently about how the deer taught you where to put a shelter? And how when you built your first debris hut, because you learned from the deer how easy it was for you and how fast you put it together and how that place was warmer than anywhere else, you know, because the deer taught you. You just get up there and you tell that story, but do it from that place that I'm telling you. Don't look and make eye contact with these people because their egos, that's just bullshit, John. You're going to get caught in their egos and you're going to be pulled down. You can't convince them anyway. If you talk to that spirit over the whole room, you'll talk directly to their spirit and you'll get in their heart. And that's what you have to do. And that was a pretty heavy thing to lay out on an 18-year-old who'd never stood up in front of a group of adults. But when I got up there in front, man, I was scared. I was literally like, my knees were shaking, right? I got up there and I just made this prayer and I just said, I don't know how to do this thing that Tom told me to do, but I'm just going to click into it. And I did it. And I don't know, talked for 30, 40 minutes. And those people just absolutely gave me an ovation. I don't even know what I said. I don't even remember what I said, but Tom said, you got it. That's the way to do it. That's influenced how I teach ever since, you know, and that's a powerful teaching from Tom. And, you know, there's more I can say, but I think I'll leave it there because I've taken a lot of time here, but thank you all for being here and honoring him and sharing your stories. And it just feels so good to know that we're all out there like family. And I hope this keeps going. You know, I'm here for it. Give us a chance to tell stories again. Thank you, Dave. Thanks, everybody.
Right on, John. Yeah, it's almost like being gathered around a fire at camp. Not quite, but certainly less ticks and less chiggers. It's getting close to noon, and we're going to have to wrap up around then. But I did want to hear one more story, and I'm going to be nice to Jorge. I'm not going to say anything about how long he likes to speak or any of that, because that would be mean of me to do. Jorge's been around a long time. Yeah, what do you got for us, Jorge?
I would like to reconnect with that parts of the stories that are already told in order to set up the story. We're going to reconnect with a little bit what Vicky said, how Tom, told her, you are with the people. I want to reconnect with that story with Brana. Brana said, I remember her in the classes and, all about that, the family and everything. And I want to go back to Victor and John, because all of what I'm about to say is reconnected to all of that. The Victor, like Tom being a musician, like a jazz musician, improviser, um, and John in teaching to the people. All of that said is how the story came about. And back on those days, the director of the school was Kevin, and I was a student since the mid '90s, and I did my internship in 2003. Kevin was the director, and there was changes coming up. Um, I think the family, Debbie, already with children, were living in Florida, and we were still in New Jersey. Big shifts were coming our way, and all of a sudden, I started working with the school. And back on those days, um, Tom will fly back to Florida, and when that happened, the director of the school, Kevin, he will close the standard. Like Tom will do the stories on Friday, and then we'll get on the plane, and Kevin will close up. And he had his own story, because grandfather as a fisherman, that was Tom's story. So as the director will close the class, he could not use grandfather and the fisherman. He will use his story, and he had a story about a gorilla. Probably, David remember all that, people from back on those days. Very powerful story. But then Kevin left, and when I started working, very, very suddenly, it was all happening fast. And Ruth Ann took over as the director of the school, and that brought us to that standard class where this story that I'm about to tell begins. So Tom was leaving New Jersey on Friday, and the director of the school was going to close the standard. So he called me up and he said, "Hey, Jorge, you're working here now, so I want you to talk to the people in the class." And I said, "I don't talk, John." I was very, very quiet. I'm always in the corner, very quiet, introspective, shy, not a public speaker at all. And this is where all the stories that you guys said before in this program, they're coming together. If we go back to the memorial and you look at the instructors list of skills that we did that day, you're going to see that most of the other instructors that work with me, they put normal stuff like tracking, fire, um, scout stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then they came up to me and said, "Jorge, what do you want to put as your skill?" And I said, "Deep observation." And they look at me like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, deep observation." And boom, they put it up. And when my people came, the group that decided to stay with me, everybody went with the popular stuff, the scout stuff, the fire stuff, and only like 15 folks came with me, which is great. I said, "You might scratching your head about deep observation, but I want to talk to you about how Tom look at us and look at the world. It's not how we observe things. We all observe things. He observed things at a different level. And how deep? Well, it was as deep as he knew about your gift, your medicine, your power before you even were aware of it. So he could see what was your gift, and he will encourage you to follow that. If your gift was not tracking or it was not fire, whatever, he will tell you, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And he will start guiding you and give you pointers. And so he came up to me that day and he said, "Jorge, I want you to talk to the people." And I was like, "I don't talk." And I said, "Yeah, you will talk." So here's where the story begins. I was like that week, the whole week of the stand, I was sick to my stomach, thinking of Saturday morning that I had to talk to 100 people in that barn, and I just could not. I didn't know what I'm gonna say. So I did what I always do, and I asked for help and said, "Please, please, grandfather, creator, help me. I don't know. I don't talk. I don't know what to say. I don't know what he wants me to say. I don't have anything for these people." So I kept praying every day, sick, nausea. I was like, oh man, I was terrified. And so I had to go to the market in town. Um, and went to the market, and I'm coming back. This is a Thursday, 2 days before the big speech. And when you're coming back toward the farm, um, you hit a dead end, and you have to make a left and a right by the post office. And there's this big farm, a farm that we used to use in the standard class to go and collect white edibles because it was an organic farm. And we weed for them for free. We take all the white edibles to make the dinner, and they will let us, go through there. As I make the left and the right, and I look at the farm on my right, time stop. And right in front of me, there it was, the story. This is happening at 25 miles an hour, in which is a distortion of time. I'm looking at the farm, and then it's like, there it is. That's the story. And it was like a second, but it wasn't an eternity. It was like, whoa. And it was like a feel with some animals and some plants. How the story was there. It was given to me, and it was a gift. And it's like, I'm so glad that I looked and I caught it. So the Saturday came in, and I stood in front of the people. And all the other instructors spoke. And Ruth Ann wanted to be last because she was the director and she was going to close the class. So I said, I'll talk last. And I said, you're not. You're going to talk before me, and I'm going to close the class. And I said, okay, I'll do that. So everybody talked, and then it was my turn. And I went and I told the story, what I saw. And I was looking at those horses. They were fenced out in the farm. It was early in the morning. The grass was green. It was after a big rain or something. And I could see the water in the grass still, all the droplets in the grass outside of the fence area where the horses were. And they were looking at that grass. It looked so fresh, succulent, so green, so beautiful. But they were standing behind the fence, waiting for the farmer to give them that dry hay or whatever it was feeding them, those grains. And what was stopping them? That fence. And then my realization of the story was like, the fence was actually a fence. It was ribbons of plastic, plastic ribbons from post to post around these animals. There were huge horses that pulled plows, but they were stopped by that flickering white ribbon plastic. They wanted to be free. They wanted to walk to that field and eat that grass, that wet grass, so fresh, so succulent. But they were not. They were afraid. They were stopped by that plastic. And as I'm talking to these people, all in front of me, the whole barn is quiet. I reach in my pocket and I pull, because the only plastic that I could find was in my pocket. And I pulled that. And I said, isn't it ironic that we want to be free? And the plastic that is stopping those horses, that's the same plastic that is stopping us from being free, from doing what we want to actually reach our medicine and use it and touch the people and help the people. What is stopping us? The 9 to 5, the plastic. And when I stopped and I came back and I looked at the people, there was not a dry eye in that room. And I looked to my right to the hardened instructors, that they were awesome. And they were holding back tears. And then I looked to my left to Ruth Ann, the director. And I say, I'm done. And she was bawling. She couldn't speak. And she said, I can't say nothing after this. And that's how the class ends that Saturday. And that's how I found my medicine. I realized that I could speak. Everything that I held inside for all my life. My mother, father went to their graves, my loved ones, my ex-wife, nobody knew that I could speak. And Tom gave me that gift back to me. That's deep observation. That is the power of his teachings. There's so many layers to it. So many layers. But I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my life. I don't want to take any more time, but thank you so much. Thank you, Dave. Thank
Gosh, I kind of feel like Ruth Ann right now.
you.
Thanks. Yeah, what a good gathering, huh? This is all right. I want to thank all of us for taking a little time out and being here and just getting together. And if you got a moment, turn your cameras on and just give everyone a wave. I hope the rest of your day is awesome. And turn your mics on and say hi.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Be safe out there.
Everyone. Appreciate everyone.
Wonderful stories.
Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.